I never thought someone would stab me in the back while wearing a red dress and smiling at me every Sunday dinner. But that's exactly what happened. My name is Emma, I'm 28 years old, and this is how my stepmother destroyed my life, and how I made sure she paid for everything she did. But first, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. And if you've ever had to cut off toxic family members, hit that like button and subscribe. Because this story gets really intense. I lost my mom when I was just 7 years old. It's the kind of pain that never really goes away. You just learn to live with this empty space in your heart. My dad tried his best to raise me alone, but I could see how tired he was all the time. How lonely he looked when he thought I wasn't watching. When I was 13, he met her, Jessica. She had perfect white teeth that looked too white to be real, and she wore so much perfume you could smell her coming from 3 rooms away. She was 32 years old, which seemed ancient to me at the time, but she acted like she was trying to be my cool older sister. Jessica moved into our house really fast. Like, scary fast. First it was just a toothbrush in the bathroom. Then suddenly half the closet was full of her clothes. Then her furniture started replacing our old stuff. She was taking over everything. Our space, our routines, our money, our whole life. By the time I was 17, they got married in this big fancy wedding that cost more than my dad made in 6 months. By 19, I was literally marking days on my calendar until I could move out and go to college. Here's the thing about Jessica. She never hit me or screamed at me. That would have been too obvious, too easy for my dad to see. Instead, she was a master of saying mean things that sounded like compliments. The kind of comments that would make you feel bad about yourself, but if you complained, she could act like you were being too sensitive. "Oh, Emma, that dress is so cute. You're finally starting to grow into your body. I love how comfortable you are going out without makeup. So natural and brave. Your dad told me your mom was really beautiful. I bet you look just like her when you put some effort in." Every single conversation had to be about her. Her job, her stories, her problems, her need for constant attention and praise. She would interrupt me mid-sentence to tell some story about herself. She would turn every family dinner into the Jessica show. And my dad, he ate it up. Or maybe he was just too tired to see what was really happening. By my mid-20s, I had learned to keep my distance. I would show up for Sunday dinners because Dad expected it. I would come to holidays and birthdays and put on my fake smile. But that was it. I was okay with keeping things surface level and polite. Then I met Jake, and everything changed. Jake was different from any guy I had dated before. He was kind and thoughtful and actually listened when I talked. He didn't try to fix all my problems or give me advice I didn't ask for. He just listened. We worked at the same finance company, and what started as coffee breaks turned into lunch dates, which turned into weekend adventures. After 2 years of dating, he proposed. It was perfect. He took me to this rooftop restaurant downtown with string lights and soft jazz music playing. His hands were actually shaking when he got down on one knee and opened the ring box. I started crying happy tears before he even finished asking the question. Of course I said yes. Jessica cried too at our engagement party, but it was this dramatic, over-the-top crying that felt like she was performing for an audience. "I just can't believe my little Emma is getting married," she said, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue like she was in some soap opera. "You two are just so perfect together. Like a fairy tale." She hugged us both really tight after the announcement. Way too tight and way too long. Looking back now, I should have noticed how her hands lingered on Jake's shoulders when she hugged him. How she looked him up and down when she thought no one was watching. The first red flag happened during wedding dress shopping. I was in the dressing room trying on this beautiful lace dress when I heard Jessica talking to my maid of honor outside. "Jake is so handsome, isn't he?" she said in this weird breathy voice. Emma really hit the jackpot with that one. Lucky girl. Something about the way she said his name made my skin crawl. Like she was tasting it in her mouth. Then she started texting him. At first, she was totally open about it and would even show me the messages. Little jokes about wedding planning, tips she found online, random funny videos she thought he would like. "He has such a great sense of humor," she would tell me after sending him some meme. "You're so lucky to have found someone who gets your family's weird jokes." But then it started getting secretive. Jake would be sitting next to me on the couch, and his phone would buzz. He would look at it, smile this little smile, and then quickly flip it face down on the coffee table. When I asked who texted him, he would always have some excuse. "Just your dad asking about the bachelor party. Jessica wondering what kind of flowers you want for the centerpieces. Work stuff, nothing important." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to trust both of them. But there was this knot in my stomach that kept getting tighter every day. This feeling that something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on what it was. 2 weeks before our wedding, I came home early from work. I had stopped at the flower shop and bought this beautiful bouquet of sunflowers, Jake's favorite, because I wanted to surprise him and take him out to dinner to celebrate getting through all the wedding stress. But I was the one who got surprised. I walked into our apartment and found Jake on our couch with no shirt on. Jessica was curled up next to him wearing one of his old college t-shirts like it was the most natural thing in the world. They were watching Netflix and laughing at something on the screen, and she had her legs tucked up under his arm. I just stood there in the doorway holding those stupid sunflowers, feeling like someone had dumped ice water over my head. Jessica noticed me first. She looked up, saw me standing there, and actually smiled. Like genuinely smiled. "Emma, you're home early," she said in this cheerful voice like I had just walked in on her organizing my spice rack, not cuddling with my fiancé half-naked on my couch. Jake looked like someone had caught him stealing from the church collection plate. He jumped up so fast he almost knocked Jessica over, and started stuttering and stumbling over his words. "Emma, wait, it's not what it looks like." But it was exactly what it looked like. I dropped those sunflowers right there on our hardwood floor and walked out without saying a single word. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even process what I had just seen. I got in my car and drove straight to my best friend Sarah's house like I was on autopilot. I collapsed on Sarah's couch and cried for about 2 hours straight. When I finally stopped crying long enough to talk, I told Sarah everything. And Sarah, bless her heart, didn't just sit there and give me sympathy. She got angry on my behalf and said we were going to figure out exactly what had been going on. We turned into private investigators overnight. Sarah helped me go through phone records, credit card statements, hotel receipts, anything we could find. What we discovered made me sick to my stomach. The affair had been going on for 6 months. 6 whole months. While I was picking out wedding flowers and tasting cakes and sending out invitations, Jessica was planning to steal my entire life. We found hotel charges on her credit card that matched up with times when Jake said he was working late. We found text message records showing hundreds of messages between them. We even found receipts for lingerie purchases that definitely weren't for my dad. I didn't scream at them. I didn't throw things or make a scene. I just quietly moved my stuff out of the apartment I shared with Jake and went to stay with Sarah while I figured out my next move. But I was not going to let them get away with this. Not by a long shot. Jessica didn't just steal my boyfriend. She had made me look like a complete fool in front of everyone I cared about. And Jake didn't just cheat on me. He had humiliated me and wasted 2 years of my life. They were about to learn that the quiet girl who used to keep her mouth shut and take whatever people dished out was done being a doormat. First, I needed to get Jake on record admitting what he had done. He kept calling and texting, begging me to meet him so we could talk things through, and he could explain everything. So I agreed to meet him, but I picked a busy coffee shop downtown, and I had Sarah sitting at a table nearby secretly recording everything on her phone. I let Jake talk. I let him spin his story about how it started as just friendship and emotional support during wedding stress. How he and Jessica didn't plan for this to happen, but they just had this incredible connection. how it was different from what he had with me because Jessica really understood him. Then I looked him straight in the eye and asked the question I really needed answered. How many times did you sleep with her in our apartment? In our bed. He looked around the coffee shop like he was checking to see if anyone was listening, then leaned forward and whispered, a few times, but we were really careful about it. We always changed the sheets after. Sarah got every single word on video. Meanwhile, Jessica had no idea that I still knew her email password from way back when she first moved in with my dad and I had helped her set up her account. I logged in and found everything. Hotel receipts for their secret getaways. Venmo payments she had sent to Jake for dinner and drinks. And the piece of evidence that made me see red, a draft email to one of her friends that she never sent, bragging about finally getting rid of Emma and taking her place in more ways than one. Reading that felt like getting punched in the stomach. This woman had sat at our dinner table for 15 years, pretending to care about me, and the whole time she was planning to destroy my life. Next, I went to my dad. Not with accusations or drama, but with a manila folder full of evidence. Photos, printed emails, bank statements, recorded conversations. I laid it all out on his kitchen table like I was presenting a case to a jury. The apartment they had rented for their secret meetups, paid for with his credit card. The joint checking account Jessica had opened without telling him, with Jake listed as a co-owner. The business loan she had taken out in both their names to help Jake start some consulting firm, all without my dad's knowledge. My dad didn't yell or throw things or have a dramatic meltdown. He just sat there looking at all the evidence for about 10 minutes. Then he looked up at me with this expression I had never seen before, like he was seeing clearly for the first time in years. We're going to make this right, he said quietly. All of it. And we did exactly that. Dad filed for divorce immediately and hired the most aggressive lawyer he could find. He also filed a civil lawsuit against Jessica for fraud because she had been using marital funds to carry on her affair. The court ordered her to pay back almost $35,000 in damages, money she had spent on hotels, gifts for Jake, and that secret apartment. Her credit score tanked overnight. Her name got dragged through the mud in court documents that became public record. Everyone in their social circle found out exactly what kind of person she really was. But I wasn't done with Jake yet. Jake still worked at the same financial firm where we had met. I anonymously forwarded Sarah's coffee shop recording to the HR department with a note explaining that Jake had violated company policy by having a relationship with a client's spouse. See, my dad's construction company had been one of Jake's biggest accounts for the past 3 years. Jake got fired within 24 hours. Not only that, but word spread fast in our industry, and he got blacklisted from every major firm in the city. Turns out, nobody wants to hire someone who can't be trusted with client relationships. Jessica and Jake moved in together after her divorce was finalized, but now they were both unemployed and broke. They had to sell her designer handbag collection and Jake's expensive electronics just to make rent on some tiny studio apartment across town. Their epic love story quickly turned into a nightmare of blame and resentment. Jessica accused Jake of ruining her marriage and her financial security. Jake blamed Jessica for getting him fired and destroying his career. They were fighting constantly, and everyone could hear them through the thin walls of their cheap apartment building. I made sure that every single step of their downfall was completely legal and well documented. I never did anything that could come back to bite me later. About 6 months after everything went down, Jessica called me crying and begging for forgiveness. She said she was sorry, that she had made a huge mistake, that she missed being part of our family. I listened to her sob for about 2 minutes, then I said very calmly, "You told everyone you were replacing me in Dad's life. Now you can also replace my heartbreak, my therapy bills, and my silence about what kind of person you really are." Then I hung up. A few months later, I started a blog called The Forgotten Daughter, where women could share their stories about family betrayal, toxic stepmothers, and getting justice when the system fails you. The blog went viral within weeks. I started getting messages from women all over the world sharing their own stories. I turned it into a podcast, then started speaking at conferences about setting boundaries with toxic family members. Jessica found the website and knew immediately that it was about her. I never used her real name or specific details that could get me in legal trouble, but every story was like holding up a mirror to her behavior. Her friends recognized the stories. Her former co-workers put two and two together. And she couldn't complain or threaten me without basically admitting that everything I wrote was true. She did try to have a lawyer send me a cease and desist letter. My lawyer responded with just 3 words: truth is defense. Today, I live in a beautiful downtown condo that I bought with my own money. No co-signers, no family help, no strings attached. I travel whenever I want. I speak at women's conferences about turning your worst moments into your greatest comebacks. I help other people who have been betrayed by the people they trusted most. And every time I see a red dress in a store window, I smile. Not because I'm bitter or angry, but because I remember how far I've come. How I went from being a victim to being someone who helps other victims find their strength. Sometimes the people who try to destroy you end up giving you exactly what you need to build something amazing. Jessica thought she was taking my life away from me. Instead, she pushed me to create a life that's better than anything I could have imagined. The best revenge isn't getting angry or getting even. It's getting better. It's proving that you're stronger than whatever tried to break you. What's the most satisfying moment of justice you've ever witnessed? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one and I love hearing from you. If this story hit you in the feels, absolutely destroy that like button, subscribe for more stories about karma coming for people who deserve it, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Remember, you are the author of your own story. Don't let anyone else hold the pen.